a sealed letter, a private businessman, the White House gates, and Marco Rubio found out only after it was already inside. Cuba just made the most dangerous diplomatic gamble of the last 66 years, and it almost worked. On a quiet weekday afternoon, a man with a briefcase walked through White House security. No press, no announcement, no State Department escort. He was carrying a sealed letter from Havana, directly addressed to Donald Trump, not routed through official diplomatic channels, not cleared by the Secretary of State, not approved by anyone in Marco Rubio's orbit. Just a letter, a businessman, and a gate that opened when it was never supposed to. The operation was organized from inside Cuba's innermost circle. Raúl Castro's grandson, a close aide to the aging former leader who, at 94, still pulls strings through family loyalists and military networks, handled the logistics personally. The intermediary had years of quiet commercial contacts in both Washington and Havana. He knew the right doors, he cleared the right checkpoints, and the letter arrived. Then the Wall Street Journal published the story on April 17th, and everything collapsed. If you're just finding this channel, this story goes 14 videos deep. Subscribe now and start from the beginning. The full picture will change how you see this. Here's what nobody is asking loudly enough. Why did Cuba believe this would work? This was not desperation. This was not a blunder. This was a calculated strategic decision. And to understand it, you need to understand one thing about Marco Rubio that Cuba understood long before Washington admitted it. Marco Rubio is not a diplomat managing U.S.-Cuba relations. He is the architect of a 30-year pressure campaign against them. As a senator, he voted against Obama's Cuba policy 23 times. He authored legislation to reverse normalization. He activated Title III of the Helms-Burton Act, triggering a wave of lawsuits over properties seized after the revolution. He championed Cuba's redesignation as a state sponsor of terrorism. And when Trump handed him the Secretary of State position, Rubio carried every single piece of that agenda into the most powerful diplomatic office on earth. Cuba's leadership has studied Rubio for decades. They know his parents left the island in 1956. They know his political base, 1.2 million Cuban exiles in Miami, 70% Republican. They know his stated goal is not negotiation, it is regime change. Sending a peace proposal through Rubio's State Department is not diplomacy. It is handing your letter to the man whose life's mission is to make sure it never gets read. So Cuba didn't send it through him. This channel has documented every step of this confrontation across 14 videos. If that kind of deep coverage is what you want, subscribe. New video drops with every major development. Cuba bypassed Rubio because Rubio is the wall. But here's the question that cuts deeper, and the one that will determine everything going forward. Did Trump read the letter before the leak? Because if he did, the game has already changed. And if he didn't, or if someone made sure he didn't, then what you're watching isn't just a U.S.-Cuba story, it's a power struggle inside the Trump White House itself. Reports suggest the letter carried two things: warnings about potential U.S. military escalation and a direct offer. Economic partnerships, investment frameworks, migration agreements, security concessions. All of it structured around one Cuban condition: sovereignty. The current government stays in power. But the letter contained something else, something no press conference or foreign ministry statement could deliver. A direct appeal to Trump's most powerful instinct. Trump is a deal maker. He brokered the Abraham Accords. He flew to Singapore to meet Kim Jong-un when no other American president would. He has publicly said Cuba could be ours in a friendly way. His entire political self-image is built on making the deals that everyone else said were impossible. Cuba's letter told him, you can be the president who solved Cuba, not through war, not through regime change, through a deal, your deal, with your name on it. That is not a diplomatic communication. That is a targeting system aimed directly at Trump's ego, his legacy, and his hunger for a historic headline. And it bypassed Rubio's framework entirely because Rubio's framework offers Trump no trophy. It offers him a collapse. And a collapse doesn't get a monument. A deal does. The letter was never supposed to become public. Its entire value was secrecy, a private channel that could test proposals before Rubio could block them. The Wall Street Journal burned it. The question is, who handed them the match? 3 suspects, 3 motives. Cuba leaks it to show the world it's willing to deal directly with Trump, generating public pressure on Washington to respond. But leaking destroys the only channel Cuba had. Cuba does not burn its own lifeline. The White House leaks it to signal internally that Trump is open to Cuba talks, creating pressure on Rubio from above. Possible. But it publicly humiliates the Secretary of State. High risk even for this administration. Rubio's orbit leaks it to expose Cuba's end run, embarrass Havana publicly, and ensure that every future communication is forced back through the State Department, through the wall, through Rubio. The effect of the leak is unambiguous, regardless of who caused it. The back channel is destroyed. Cuba's attempt to reach Trump directly has been neutralized, and Rubio's role as the gatekeeper of U.S.-Cuba policy has been reinforced, precisely because Cuba tried to go around him. The guard found out someone tried to use the side door. Now there is no side door. But here is the detail that most coverage walked right past, and it may be the most important fact in this entire story. Cuba has used this exact playbook before, twice, and it worked both times. In the 1970s, Carter-era back-channel talks produced the release of 3,500 political prisoners. In 2013, secret negotiations brokered through Pope Francis, bypassing congressional hardliners completely, led to Obama's full normalization announcement in 2014. Embassies reopened. Flights resumed. A 50-year freeze began to thaw. Both times, Cuba bypassed the hardliner, reached the decision-maker, offered a deal the decision-maker could call a victory. Both times, it worked. The playbook is not wrong. The channel just didn't hold. And that tells you something brutal about this administration. It leaks. Not because Cuba made an error in judgment, but because inside Trump's White House, 2 competing instincts are at war. Trump wants a trophy. Rubio wants a reckoning. And that internal war produces leaks, and leaks kill the back channels that trophies require. Here is what we know for certain. Cuba sent a sealed letter to Trump through a private businessman, bypassing Rubio and the State Department entirely. The operation was organized by Raúl Castro's grandson. The Wall Street Journal exposed it on April 17th. Rubio learned about it after the fact. The letter proposed compromise on migration and security while warning against military escalation. The back channel is now burned. Here is what we do not know. Whether Trump read the letter before the leak, whether the leak came from Rubio's team to protect his control over Cuba policy, and whether a new channel will open, or whether Cuba's only remaining path to Trump now runs directly through the man Cuba was trying to avoid. The letter is ash. But the question it carried, deal or collapse, is still unanswered. And until Trump answers it, Cuba waits in the space between a president who wants a monument and a Secretary of State who wants a surrender. Rubio testifies before Congress on April 25th. A Mar-a-Lago summit with regional leaders is scheduled for May. Both events will show us the answer to the one question this letter posed, and this leak could not kill. Does the dealmaker outrank the confrontationist? Watch those dates. Because the next signal will not come in a speech. It will come in whether a new back channel quietly opens or whether the silence tells you everything. Here is my question for you. If you were advising Cuba's leadership today, knowing the channel burned, knowing Rubio is now on alert, knowing Trump has said nothing publicly, would you try to open a new back channel? Or has the leak made that permanently impossible, leaving regime change as the only outcome Rubio will allow? Put your answer in the comments. I read everyone. This is video 14 in the Cuba series. If you've watched this far and you're not subscribed yet, this is the moment. Hit subscribe. Every new development in this story gets its own video, and the next one is already in production. I'm your name. See you in the next one.